Hello, everyone. So today we are going to get into medieval Islamic medicine. I have had a couple other videos that I've used for show you some of the achievements of Islamic culture during the medieval period, but today I want to really just focus in on medicine because you got some really incredible advancements here. So the key thing that the Muslims in this era are really going to do is building on the Greeks and the Romans. Okay, they're going to do things like translate the works of Galen, Hippocrates, and scholars of Alexandria. But they look to test these ideas, and then they want to expand and elaborate upon them. Okay, so it's not just like, okay, well, Galen said it, so this is the deal. No, they take those themes and ideas, they want to test them, they want to see if they're right and improve upon them, which of course is the best thing that you want to do to any and all knowledge is test it, and that's okay. But the one of the biggest things they do, and this is huge, is the compiling of information into medical texts and encyclopedias. And this is a huge deal. If you look at doctors and stuff like that today, I mean, it's their ability to draw on scholarship and to research symptoms and things if they don't know exactly what something is right away. Because no doctor can know everything. A doctor can know a lot, but they can't know everything. And with texts and encyclopedias, of course, now we digitize all these things, but that was a huge move that was really, really important that these Muslim scholars did. One of the guys really at the front of this was Muhammad ibn Zakariya al-Razi, better known just as al-Razi. He was a Persian who lived from 865 to 925, and his achievements are really incredible. First and foremost, he was able to distinguish measles from smallpox as, two different diseases. That's important to know because, of course, smallpox is, a brutal one that will really mess people up, but it's good to know these different diseases and what they are and what they can do, which was really, really important. He is also credited for discovering kerosene, which we will use in a variety of applications. Really, one of his fantastic things is he wrote this book called The Diseases of Children, and he is kind of seen as the father of pediatrics, is that he had this understanding and develop these ideas that diseases impact children different way than adults, and some diseases are more prevalent upon children, and trying to determine why these diseases are the way that they are. And that's really, really important. Of course, we have children's hospitals and pediatric centers all over the world today, and al-Razi was really a guy that we can credit for that. He seems to be the first person to discover allergic asthma, not, that you can have something that triggers asthma. It's something my son has to deal with, so thank you, al-Razi. The idea that a fever is a defense mechanism against disease, that's kind of important. They're not always bad, but we can have this understanding of what that they can do. And he also started to test out some drugs for early anesthesia. Mildly successful, not to the degree of guys later on or what, say, William T.G. Morton might do. But, again, you lay the basis for everything. So, like right out of the gate here, you can see some pretty high-end medicine being done. Okay. Another guy, this guy I can't understate enough. Ali Sina, known in Europe as Avicenna. The texts that this guy writes are just huge. One of the first thing he writes is The Law of Medicine, which was a 5-volume textbook on just for medical students, which was translated in pretty much every language in Europe. But the most important thing here is the Canon of Medicine. This may be one of the most singular important textbooks ever written. That's right up there with Elements by Euclid for mathematics. This is incredibly, incredibly important on just the categorization and cataloging of diseases, really just to determine, how diseases can impact different things. And one of the big things that he goes over here is like on how to test medicines. Okay, like purity, testing, control, quality, consistency. How you can, how do you properly test medicines? And the purpose of all of this, again, is to have this just greater understanding of medicine in general. You see on the bottom there, that is a picture of the canon of medicine. And he also really gets into the concept of infectious disease. He's one of the first people that really does an intense study of infectious disease, understanding how things are spread, as well as the importance of how to quarantine people and stuff like that. We don't have our like disinfectant stuff later. That's going to be other guys that work with that, and some pioneering work by Joseph Lister, but other guys in the Islamic communities as well. But these textbooks, this compiling of knowledge, you can't understate the importance of it. All right, and another guy here we have is Ibn al-Nafis, who is huge because he lives from around the year 1200 to 1280, and he describes the concepts of the circulatory system. Yes, modern day, we give William Harvey the specific credit for the one that discovers the circulatory system. And there was a lot of work that Harvey did that was unique and important to that, and we will talk about that on later videos. However, al-Nafis was on it 250 plus years before anybody else. Okay, William Harvey basically completes his work. Some of the most important things that al-Nafis is able to understand is the fact that blood passes through the lungs, going from one side of the heart to the other. So the basic like route that it's taking, it's huge. The circulatory system and the understanding of the circulatory system is one of the most important things in all of medicine. And you see there on the right was actually a sketch done by al-Nafis of the circulatory system. I mean, you can't understate this enough. And on the side, he works out how muscles behind the eyes work and understanding the optic nerve. And he was really big on ethics. And I really like this part, is that he was big on how doctors aren't like super above people, meaning that like when you are going to treat a patient, you need to tell the patient why you're treating them. You need to tell the patient how you're treating them and explain how that treatment is supposed to work. Okay, and really with medicine, you know, ethics is crucial because, you know, bad medicine, that's no good. And Ibn al-Nafis was really at the front of all of that. Other general advances that we have here, the study of pharmacology and the development of pharmacies. I mean, you have big on using herbs and stuff for medicines, but also using a variety of other ingredients. I'm not going to get into them to figure out what medicines work and how to properly test them and stuff like that. On the right, you see is a medieval Arabic picture of guys at a pharmacy. Of course, this is really, really important, as well as a variety of surgical procedures you have here that are really revolutionized. Cataracts, tracheotomies, cauterization of wounds. You still did some bleeding, but they had kind of moved on from that 4 elements theory of medicine, which was crucial because that probably hurt more people than helped them. And more things, lots of hospitals. On the right, there's the Al-Mansur Qalawun Hospital, which is an incredible hospital from the late 1200s in Egypt under the Mamluks here. As you can see, wonderful Islamic type architecture, but hospitals, you have like regular hospitals where people go to get sick, but also teaching hospitals and this like almost like the idea of residency that we have for doctors today. The Muslims were doing that, you know, 700 to 1,000 years ago, and a variety of medical instruments that they created: forceps and scalpels, surgical needles, retractors, specula, and catgut sutures, which are really, really good and tend to avoid infection. And when we look at this, you can see, I mean, this might indeed be the healthiest place in the world in the Middle Ages. The areas in the various Islamic empires, I'm going to talk about a variety of them as we move on here, but this stuff's pretty significant, and it's stuff that a lot of people don't necessarily know, but it's that understanding of like the high-end stuff that was going on for medicine. And a lot of the medical guys that we see do some incredible things in, say, the 1800s in Europe. a lot of that was building off the foundation that the Muslims laid down here in the medieval era. All right, guys, so hopefully that gave you some good knowledge, and I will see you soon.